we're going to organize, organize, organize. We got to organize.
Yeah, my name is Angaza Laughinghouse. I'm proud to serve as the president of the North Carolina Public Service Workers Union, UE Local 150. That's the United Electrical Machine Radio Workers Union. And also proud to say that for more than 30 years, one of the members of Black Workers for Justice. And I just want to tell you, I felt very uncomfortable coming through back doors. You know, that's been something that our people had to deal with for a while, and I'm just glad everybody had to come through that back door. But more importantly, I want to just highlight the fact that the Federal General Accounting Office stated that there's more than 7 million public service workers who have been denied or don't have statutes that grant them the basic democratic fundamental right to collectively bargain. For those of you who are not familiar with what collective bargaining is, it's when workers decide on a representative to collectively negotiate the terms and conditions of their employment in their workplace. And it's not unusual that 12 of those 13 states, were 2 million of those public service workers who are denied that right are right here in the southern region. Many of us know the reason why. We've cited the Jim Crow period, how it denied workers the power to vote and challenge the people in power who passed these laws. But more importantly, I think, is the fact that North Carolina has a statute 9598, section 9598 of the North Carolina General Statute, specifically denies this fundamental democratic right. And oftentimes, workers think it means that they don't have a right to a union, the right to freedom of assembly. And as we all know, that's a constitutional right that workers fought for and had upheld, the right to organize a union, the right to freedom of assembly, file grievances and challenges to the conditions of their employment. But I think also it's important that we understand that laws in and of itself doesn't grant power. You know, we can have sexual harassment laws, but they're not worth a nickel unless women stand up and fight sexual harassment. Similarly, we can have collective bargaining rights, but if workers don't have some action in that workplace, if workers aren't taking some what we call rank and file workplace action, nothing's going to happen in that workplace. They won't even win a decent contract with collective bargaining rights. So it's very important that we understand that. But more importantly, I think right now, one of the sharpest points of attack by that 1%, those big corporate powers, they're wealthy, is attacking the public sector. They're hitting us hard. And don't forget, they're not just hitting just public sector workers. They're cutting the programs. They're cutting the services. They're hurting all working people, all the people out there struggling and trying to make a life, and also try to provide one for their children. So very important that when we see what's going on up in Wisconsin and Pennsylvania and some of these other areas, don't forget that we've been there, and it means even worse for us in terms of the attacks that are coming down on Southern workers, particularly Southern public service workers, who have been excluded from all other laws other than the laws that they fight and win. But I'm very proud to say that I think that our union, the UE 150 and Black Workers, have been trying to use some very creative things to do this organizing. I'll never forget in 1983 when I sat down with some of the leaders of Black Workers for Justice. Many of them are in the room here today, and they're the suspects. And we began trying to organize what we call the Workers Want Fairness campaign. People thought we were kind of crazy. They said, what are you going to do, man? What can you organize without national unions? And we said we were going to build workplace organizations. And we began to build our workplace organizations. Some started with 5 city workers in Raleigh. Some started with 20 workers in Durham. Some started with 10 workers in Rocky Mount. But we know that even today, we have unions that don't have collective bargaining rights. We have to understand that's a very creative tactic that we got to use to start building and organizing the South. So, but one of the things we did know is that we could only go so far without the help of national unions. So we sat in a room. I think it came out of one of our workers' school, the Black Workers for Justice, and the union, the Durham City Workers Union, and some of the other unions we began to form. we began to say that, man, we gotta pull national unions into this. So we organized the South Solidarity Tour. This was a tour where we took Southern workers, we put them on vans, and we took them north, and they saw what unions looked like. It was the best education you could give a Southern worker who didn't know what a union was. But at the same time, we shared with these national unions and international union representatives. I think we met with Lynn Williams. How many of y'all know Lynn Williams, former president of the Steelworkers Union? And he was just amazed. He said, how y'all get here? You know, as if workers don't have the sense, you know, without having union organizers to organize themselves, you know, to figure out how to build the kind of organizations and leadership capacity they need to attract, you know, the kind of resources they need. Consequently, you know, we began to attract the attention of national unions. One of the unions that decided to come down and help us complete the process of doing more organizing in the public sector was the United Electrical Workers Union. Honored to have them come down and respond to that. But more importantly was the International Labor Organization, the public hearing we had in 2005. It was an international hearing, statewide hearing, where we had 500 workers, state, county, city workers. And we had jurists from around the world. And we filed charges in the UN, International Labor Organization, where they found this state guilty of denying us the fundamental democratic human right to collectively bargain. As you know, that was a great piece to begin to educate folks as to what the character of labor was here in the South. More importantly, during the 2012 Democratic National Convention, when labor unions said they didn't want to come south because of right-to-work laws, again, UE 150, FLOC, and other unions said, we got to figure out how to make the best of this situation. So we began to organize a Southern Workers Assembly and raise up the question of building what we call a Workers' Bill of Rights. We have to be very creative in this period. I think also that labor has to listen to some of the non-traditional types of worker organizations that exist. They weren't listening to Black Workers for Justice back in 1983 when we were saying organize the South and bringing resolutions to national conventions. But now, in the midst of this crisis, they're hearing us loud and clear, and they're seeing that we can do this. To this day, we have what we call pre-majority unions, like in the Rocky Mount engine plant, where Brother Jim Wren, one of our UE officers, does his work. We have workers in a plant that doesn't even have collective bargaining that challenges and wins things against the bosses. This may have to be what we can try to build in this period, initially, as we continue to fight for collective bargaining rights. I want to close by saying, since I know a Jamu, put my wife there so she can snatch me off the stage if I go over time, and he got Rukia there staring me down. But I do know that we're going to have to call upon you to help us out with handing out those leaflets in the morning, writing editorials, helping us build the labor community alliances that we need, because I know we will win this fight, and I know we will win it with all of you in this room, and I know we have to duplicate this again and again in many other organizations, in churches and youth groups, and all kinds of organizations. We're going to have to duplicate this church sort of atmosphere we got up in here. And I'm just happy again that all of you turned out to hear these powerful messages.